You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is May 15, 2023, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we are bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. And today we're visiting the region of New Hampshire with Ben Weir. Ben Weir is the chair of the Merrimack Valley Libertarian Party. He's also an at-large for the state Libertarian Party, and he is a proud free stater, and we'll talk a little bit about what that means later on in the show as well. But before we jump into all that, let me introduce you to the rest of our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our lower right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have our guest today, Ben Weir, and my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So let's jump right into it. James, our invisible hand, could I get the... Great. Yeah. So this is the Merrimack Valley Libertarian Party page, and there's a picture of Ben Weir. In fact, he just ran for sheriff as well. So that'll be an interesting part of our conversation too. But one of the things we like to do before we jump into anything is when we're in these regional things is to talk a little bit about what the place is like that we're talking about as far as liberty goes. So, Cato has this nice map that we like to bring up, and there New Hampshire is, for anybody who's not sure where on the map that is. It's right up there in the northeast part of the country, and it is number 1 on the Cato map the last time they did this. So, and you can kind of see a little bit about how they are ranking them. Looks like my graphics are a little slow to load. There it goes. So anyways, this kind of breaks it down to what they think they're doing right and wrong as far as liberty goes, and they're doing an awful lot right in New Hampshire. And as far as the red-blue makeup goes, it's funny, they have kind of an odd mix in the national offices, senators and representatives. It's all Democrats, but when you look at the state level politics, you can see that most of the offices are held by Republicans, and that's true as well for the breakdown. Boy, my pages are sure slow loading today. But anyways, so that's kind of the state. It seems like kind of a mixed bag. It's a little more Republican than Democrat at the local level, but at the national level, they've got more Democrats. So there you have it. Ben, why don't you tell us a little bit about, I guess, why your experience is, the Libertarian Party chair there in Merrimack Valley, and what was it that brought you to Liberty?
So I moved to New Hampshire last March. So I actually moved here from the Sacramento area, and I pretty much just dove in head first. I had a lot of experience helping county affiliates and the northern region of California, establishing more decentralized liberty meetups and stuff like that all throughout the northern part of the state. So when I got here, I really wanted to bring those tools that I had collected with me and put them to good use. So when I got to New Hampshire, the first thing I did was, try to get involved with as many local liberty meetups as possible, including with the Libertarian Party. Merrimack Valley Libertarian Party is one of the only regional affiliates that we have here right now that's active. And we're trying to make it more active by essentially getting a new CRM, which is like a customer management or a consumer management database to collect data and stuff, which is the boring stuff. But have regular events and meetups so people can get together and hang out and all that. But it exists to complement the state party, which is the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, and to basically promote localized growth instead of just at a state level. Now, New Hampshire is obviously already not a huge state. It doesn't take 10 hours to drive from the northern border to the southern border like it does in California. So there's a lot of benefit in that. You have a lot of libertarians concentrated in a small state where it literally takes you like an hour and a half to 2 hours to drive from one side of the state to the other. But having those regional affiliates, it complements the state party and what they're trying to accomplish, but it also complements the Free State Project, which is basically just a bunch of people moving to New Hampshire, and it's literally the decentralized revolution, because people are getting here, and any given day of the week you have 5 or 10 events that you could go to and attend and meet other liberty-minded people. Not all libertarians, but
I just wanted to break in for a second. So when you talk about all these libertarians sort of concentrating, and then this is the Free State Project that you're talking about, sort of, that's this attempt to draw everybody into New Hampshire that's liberty-minded, so we can get some actual liberty policy going at a state level.
Yep, absolutely. And the Free State Project has been pretty successful, especially more recently when it comes to influencing politics here. Actually, the House Majority Leader here is a Free Stater. There's 40 Free Staters, or lowercase L Libertarians is what I call them, that are in the House of Representatives here for the state. And there's also our first state senator was elected as well this year. All part of the Free State.
If I could interrupt for a second, could you tell the audience exactly what the Free State Project is?
Yeah. So
hold on, James, can you pull up the visual too while he's talking? Thanks. Sorry.
Yeah. So the Free State Project is basically the idea of libertarian concentration, and New Hampshire is the libertarian homeland. So we're trying to get as many people who care about personal freedom and economic freedom to move here as possible. And there's already been over 20,000 people that have signed a pledge to commit to move here, and thousands that have already made that move. And where that falls in line is the reason that you choose New Hampshire is because New Hampshire has the most taxation, or so the most representation per taxed citizen in the entire country. There's 400 state reps in a small state, and with that, it's really breaking it down. Whereas in California, I can't remember how many state reps that they have. Maybe one of you guys know the answer to that, but
it's 80 and 40. 80 in the lower house and 40 in the upper house.
We're talking like way less population, but with 400 state representatives. So in terms of actually having liberty policy progress and benefit our state, we were able to get 40 state representatives elected through the Free State Project and other liberty organizations here. There's a bunch of them. This last year especially, we've been able to put through a lot of bills to help, at least with the personal freedom side of things. And they're always trying to reduce taxes as well, but New Hampshire's has a lower tax burden than pretty much every other state in the country as well. So the only thing that's really high right now is the property tax, and I know that they're trying to lower that every day. So
I noticed you said a lot of small L libertarians are getting elected. So are they tending to go into the Republican Party and get elected that way, or okay?
Yep. So that's there's Republicans and Democrats that are elected you go up to them and they'll identify themselves as libertarian. But Libertarian Party and Libertarians do not have ballot access in the state of New Hampshire. So you can't actually register as a libertarian. And actually, I'm friends with a guy, Brandon Finney, who's an elected state representative here. And he ran as a Republican the first time and he won. And then when he was in, he switched his party status to Libertarian back when Libertarian Party still had ballot access. And he lost that election. And then he switches back to Republican and he wins again. And, but that doesn't change his principles. Like, he's still putting through some incredible bills, and he actually, he's trying to introduce legislation to and civil asset forfeiture and some very like good libertarian based principled bills. But it doesn't, it's very similar to what like Justin Amash did when he was in Congress. So
So what exactly is the issue with ballot access for the Libertarian Party in New Hampshire?
So back when they had ballot access the last time, it was because you need to have either a governor or a senator candidate for your party get at least 2% of the total vote count. So after the Libertarian Party got that 2% and received ballot access back in like 2018, the state legislature actually raised that number to 4%. So so it's going to be a never-ending game no matter where you go with this, probably, because they really don't want libertarians on the candidate. They don't want splitting the vote, us to split the vote. And last year was ridiculous because we actually had 2 candidates on the ballot for governor, which was, in my opinion, probably the Libertarian Party's best chance of getting 4%. And unfortunately, both of the candidates that the Libertarian Party had, not even the Libertarian Party, just that identified as libertarians, were not that good of candidates. So there was a big missed opportunity there. And that's something that I'm looking to correct next year, which is the next, obviously next year's a presidential year. And we want to have some strong candidates on the ballot, but we also are keeping in mind that if there's candidates that are going to be on the ballot that are aligned with us in every way, maybe they're free staters or they're lowercase L libertarians, in my opinion, there's no reason for us to compete with that. So, if we're increasing our personal freedoms and our economic freedom with someone else being there, we shouldn't be fighting them for that. So, but that's just my personal opinion. That's not a party opinion or anything like that. So
it does seem like if we could get a whole party full of a whole Republican Party full of Rand Pauls, I'd be fairly comfortable being a Republican.
I agree.
And I'm thinking that if I was going to put it out there to be a candidate in California, I'd probably run as a Democrat because I get a lot of votes just for being that. Then I'd be blatantly transparent about it and tell them, hey, I'm just doing this for the votes. I'm still going to vote Libertarian. And I'd let everybody know I'm a Libertarian, but I don't stand a snowball's chance in hell of getting elected. But since it's California, I'm going to run as a Democrat and heck with all you guys. That's what I'd say.
Absolutely. And if the goal is to just, get the votes and win and make real libertarian change, and you don't stand a chance maybe as a third party candidate, why not? Just infiltrate one of the other parties and take their votes.
Right. And it all would depend on the structure of that particular state, political structure of that.
Yeah, it helps having that many representatives in New Hampshire, like I said. And like I said, the House Majority Leader here, he's a free stater and he's very like a based libertarian. So he's the guy who sets the tone across the board for the entire state house. So it's really good to have people like that standing up for our freedoms. And even just last year, they basically passed a bill that says if the federal government decided to put like an AR bill in to ban ARs, AR-15s, that they have no obligation as a state to respect that or even recognize it in any way. Essentially, they're nullifying the federal law in favor of state authority. So,
right, which they have every right to do.
Yeah,
as a sovereign state within this conglomeration of states we call the Federalized Republic of the United States. And I noticed you have an AR-15 mural on the.
I am a gun rights advocate and an absolutist. I did a lot of like advocation for gun rights when I lived in California for 4.5 years, and the government is not good at creating laws, and it's very easy to get out of following their AR restrictions while still abiding by the ATF definition of what an AR is. And there's a million ways to get around it without breaking the law. So the truth is that they just think that they're scary. And
right. Yeah. So you put a wing behind the grip.
Yes. Right.
So you can't wrap your thumb around it. Yeah.
No. Right.
Crazy stuff. Okay.
Well, Ben, you have kind of an interesting past coming to California and then being one of those people who sort of escaped to New Hampshire. What was it that sort of woke you up to liberty? Were you sort of awake to liberty when you made it to California first, and then you said, "Whoa, this is nuts," or did the experience of being here and being kind of oppressed, cause you to be a liberty-minded person?
So a lot of people actually come to libertarianism, and then they become like, the more they study libertarianism, they become like minarchists or even anarchists. They want small government or no government because they believe that, you own yourself and you own the outcomes to yourself as well. So, for me, actually, if you can't tell, I'm a musical kind of guy. I've got guitars all around me, and this is my recording studio and stuff too. I came into this from a different background. I was actually like an anarchist. So I believed there shouldn't be government as a young rebellious teenager. And then going into college, I learned about anarcho-capitalism and Murray Rothbard, Ron Paul, like all these amazing libertarian guys that are incredible philosophers. And I still identify as an anarcho-capitalist to this day.
What about the emo part?
The emo is just the type of music that I used to play. I used to tour in a band that went across the country, and we played music at a bunch of cool venues and big festivals. And emo is just the genre of music that we played, which is an alternative punk type music that's more inclined to go towards the emotional side of it. So, right. But yeah, so I came in it from that side. I progressed into it, in college, into more libertarian philosophy, and it just kept growing. When I got to California, obviously, I never wanted to move to California. I always had bad taste in my mouth in California because I lived in Colorado at the time. And they basically say Colorado is California 2.0 because everything that happens in California happens there too. And it just seems to be a constant decline of the government there. And then when I get to California, I moved there for work. And it just, then COVID hit a couple of years later, and it just kind of made me more extreme in my passion as well. So, I was already, helping out with the Libertarian Party of Sacramento at that time. And, I wanted to get as involved as possible into the more localized politics, and just trying to find ways to meet up with the other individuals that passionately, believe in these principles, and try to get our ideas together, and so we can, grow our community in California. And that's how that all got going. So
let me ask a question, Ben. I want to go back a little bit here to something that was said, in the sense that we seem, of course, the Libertarian Party is probably a 2% party, a 3% party. Maybe if we get 4%, we think we're doing great and wonderful. Even though I'm not a member of the Libertarian Party, but I do share some of their philosophies. But isn't it more practical? Tim just talked about the fact that in California, he can run as a Democrat and still be a Libertarian. is it more practical for the Libertarian Party to maybe become a wing of one of the two major parties, and we could still espouse our philosophies of libertarianism within the structure of one of the larger parties? Is that more practical than us trying to be a party on our own, trying to get our own votes, trying to win office as libertarians, or rather than win it as, say, a Democrat or Republican and still espousing the libertarian philosophy?
I think so. I see it working here in New Hampshire. It's working very well. And you have caucuses in each of the parties. And, you know, like even some of the caucuses in the Libertarian Party have now moved over and have started their version of the caucuses in the other Republican and Democrat parties as well. In my opinion, like once you take the red pill into being more liberty minded and want personal freedom and economic freedom, you can't fall away from that. Like you can't unlearn that. You can't unsee what you've been awoken to, essentially, in the government corruption and how they control every aspect of your lives, essentially. And once you see that, you can advocate for that in whatever community you're in, whether it's in the Democratic Party, which in California, it would make more sense, and the Republican Party. I mean, you have people like RFK Jr. right now who's about to run for president. And while I don't agree with a lot of things that he stands for, like especially on like the climate change type of stuff, I know that he believes in sound economics. And, you know, like he's horrible on guns. He's absolutely horrible on guns. But, you know, like he believes in bodily autonomy. So like, you know, there's some common ground you can find, especially in California, on issues like that, or issues like maybe decrim nature, you know, to get like, you know, I don't know, a marijuana and mushrooms or whatever. Like those guys advocate for that, but those are also the Libertarian Party would also advocate for as well, you know. So personal responsibility essentially is what it came down to there. So
yeah. Well, Ben, I was going to ask you, I guess you'd run for office as a sheriff. What kind of things do you imagine you could do to bring liberty to a government position like that?
In my opinion, there needs to be more liberty-minded people running for sheriff, because you're essentially the last line of defense for your county's, you know, safety, and against federal tyranny and government overreach. So with my campaign running for sheriff, like my hot button issues were mental health. I was in the Army, and I've seen a lot of people lose their lives or just lose their minds with PTSD. And mental health is a crisis in the law enforcement community that's not addressed. And it shouldn't surprise anybody that there's cops overstepping their authority and killing people and doing all this stuff when mentally they have been damaged severely. That's a huge issue that's just not addressed in law enforcement, almost everywhere, all across the country. You know, having sustainable law enforcement budgets or retirement plans. For every 3 law enforcement officers that we pay for as taxpayers, you actually only get 1, because you're paying for the last 2 guys who held that position too, with their retirement plans and all that. Also, like, you know, a sheriff's role and their main responsibility is to uphold the Constitution, plain and simple. So, I mean, that was my top thing, was like, I told people, you know, my goal is to uphold the Constitution, but also, you know, let's work on their mental health. Let's get sustainable law enforcement plans and budgets. It's crazy how much money that they've been wasting that just comes right back to the taxpayers and hurts them. You can basically nullify unconstitutional laws. Like if the ATF is trying to encroach on the border of your county, you can basically just tell them to kick rocks. You can end civil asset forfeiture practices in your county. You can provide better de-escalation training for officers. all this stuff is super important. And if there's any place that a liberty-minded person can have the most impact, it's absolutely at the county sheriff level. And it's because of that I'm planning to run again in 2024. So I had a lot of support last time. I ran through a lot of hoops with my campaign, including them trying to remove me from the ballot, even though I collected enough petitions and nomination papers, which was, I had to collect like 300 nomination papers to get ballot access. And then the Secretary of State's office, basically, I had to go up against the Ballot Law Commission and go up against like 5 state reps and a mayor and a couple other people that are on the Ballot Law Commission to reinstate myself onto the ballot. And it worked. I won, which was great because they had no leg to stand on with what they were trying to get me off for. I don't think that they wanted another candidate on the ballot. And what initially got this going for me was obviously, like, I'm passionate about all this stuff, especially with gun rights and bodily autonomy, and all this. But in my county, there was essentially 2 Democrats on the ballot. One of them was a career Democrat who was a Maggie Hassan supporter, who's the Democrat senator here, and she's a horrible Democrat, by the way.
Yes, we know. Yes,
she's horrible, and he lost the Democratic primary last time, so this time he switched parties to the Republican Party, and he tried to run as Republican. The Democrat is slightly less bad, but still pretty bad. Like the sheriff's office here has had like almost 30 like sexual misconduct allegations over the last 2 years that are not being addressed. Insane wasted money, but he calls himself a fiscal conservative. But it's just not true. He's spending money just like Maggie Hassan. He's a Maggie Hassan supporter too. So by having me on the ballot, the third party, I caused one of them to lose, obviously, because I got over 3,000 votes. One of them lost by like 2,200 votes. So if I wasn't on the ballot, chances are the person running as Republican probably would have won. Ben, I was going to tell you, aside from being short on votes, we're short on time here too. So because we're just about at 28 minutes, that's okay. Is there one final quick shot you'd like to leave the audience with before we leave? Yeah, just try to get involved with your local liberty movement, or start one if there's not one there already. Because there's a lot more people that feel the same way and are passionate about your personal freedom and economic freedom. And it doesn't have to be associated with a party. Just get out there, meet people that are like-minded, because there's power in unity and there's power in community. And I know that you can make a difference even in the craziest tyrannical regimes of California. So
awesome. Well, that sounds like a great message to leave on. And by the way, if you've been interested in this show, we're going to talk with Ben a little more on our next show about some more New Hampshire focused issues coming up. But thanks so much for joining us on this one. And until next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Yes, indeed. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.